Good evening, everyone. If we could take your seats and we'll get started. I wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight, and I'm really excited to hear the presentations. There's plenty of food, so feel free to enjoy throughout the evening. Restrooms are right there behind the door. And I wanted to thank SNJ Today for hosting the event tonight and facilitating. I think that you will find a great team that I've discovered over the last couple of months, and the really exciting things that are going on here. And hopefully we can all participate in that process. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Frank Demaro, who is involved in SNJ Today, and he's going to introduce you to everyone who will be working with you tonight. All right, so thanks very much.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Frank Demaro. I am SNJ Today's Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer. And on behalf of SNJ Today, I would like to welcome you and thank you for being here as we give our presentation on public relations in the 21st century. I would also like to thank Matt Pisarski, who, when we first met at the South Jersey Cultural Alliance Awards at the Leroy Theater, Matt thought that this type of a workshop would be very beneficial for the Cumberland County Cultural and Heritage Commission's grant recipients. So thank you, Matt, for making this workshop a reality. Now, for those of you who are unaware of our company, SNJ Today is both a new and traditional media company. Our mission is to be the leader in telling positive community stories that inspire and inform, and to deliver those stories to our community in entertaining and engaging ways. In addition to our compelling content, we also offer a full suite of integrated marketing solutions, ranging from commercial video production, internet design and development, as well as social media management to help those who, like you, need help in telling their own stories. Now, I'm fully aware that building a media company whose core mission is built on positive content is a huge risk, especially since the business model of almost every traditional news organization centers around bad news. But let me ask you this. When you read about murders, shootings, home invasions in the paper, how does that make you feel? Last week I read about a study that was published in NPR on the Boston Marathon bombing. And these researchers discovered that people who followed the story in the media exhibited a higher stress level than the people who were actually there, who experienced the bombing. What we are exposed to in the media has a very profound impact on how we feel. And that right there is what we want to change. Now, as to whether our mission will be successful, only time will tell. But there is one thing that I am certain, and that is we will only be successful if we find a way to embrace and engage our community. And that begins right here with all of you. So tonight I'm asking you, pleading with you might be a better word, to help me to use SNJ Today as a proponent for positive social change in our community. Tune into our radio station at 1240 a.m. Watch us on Comcast Channel 22. Stream our radio broadcast on your mobile phone. Like us on Facebook. Visit our soon-to-be-finished website, snjtoday.com, where all of our content will be available on demand. Tell us what you like. More importantly, tell us what you don't like. The only way for us to better serve this community is to get engagement. They say that it takes a village to raise a child. I believe it's going to take an entire community to launch SNJ Today. And I can't do that. Correction, we can't do that unless we find a way to get you actively involved in embracing our mission of delivering positive stories. Not just because we want to, but because we need to. Never underestimate the power of a few committed individuals to change the world. For indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Thank you. So with that said, I would like to now introduce our 4 presenters for this evening. And as I call your name, if each of you could stand up. Our first presenter this evening is Terry Carpenter. Terry is our Public Relations and Communications Specialist. She provides PR and marketing guidance to SNJ Today, as well as our clients and business partners. She's directed both large and small communications departments and has a very keen understanding of the practical challenges of developing relationships with those most meaningful to a company or organization. Some of the companies that Terry has worked with in the past include American Water, Campbell Soup, the Cumberland County College Foundation, Salem County Community College, the Cumberland County Technical Education Center, and of course, SNJ Today. Our second presenter for the evening will be Kevin Malone. Kevin is SNJ Today's Video Production Manager. Kevin is a Film and Media Arts graduate of Temple University, and previous to joining us with SNJ Today, Kevin was the video producer and editor of Runner's World, an internationally acclaimed print and electronic magazine. He has written, directed, edited, and produced promotional videos, as well as documentaries, which have debuted globally at national film festivals. And Kevin is also responsible for SNJ Today's recent production titled The Bridgeton Invitational, America's most innovative baseball tournament, which aired on Comcast Channel 22 and is available on our YouTube page. Our third presenter this evening will be Bryan Klugh. Bryan is SNJ Today's webmaster. Bryan has over 15 years of experience working with web design, development, and search engine optimization. A graduate of Temple University, Bryan is a recognized web design leader with a massive portfolio, including global and multi-industry related sites. He is well versed in creating custom website designs, web-based software, and search engine marketing campaigns. And our final presenter for the evening will be Rebecca Kowalecicz. Besides being the fastest speaking person I have ever met, which I've kind of coached her that she has to speak slowly tonight, Rebecca is SNJ Today's social media manager. Rebecca has fostered the social media and marketing presence of a host of corporations and organizations, including Hoshino USA, which is the manufacturer of Ibanez guitars and Tama drums. Rebecca has also worked with the National Arts and Craft retail chain AC Moore. And as our media manager, Rebecca manages both our company and many of our clients' social media platforms and strategies on a daily basis. This includes developing a unique social media engagement strategy for each company we work with, and also developing the specific content for each audience on each of the social media platforms, which seems to always be growing. So, social media is a very rapidly evolving environment, and Rebecca and her team really have their hands full as they track all these changes, manage the content, plus they maintain 24/7 postings schedules for us and all of our clients, and that's a very daunting task. So, people think Linda Carter was the original Wonder Woman. I think Rebecca is the real life Wonder Woman. So, without further ado, well, thank you again for your attendance here this evening, and I'm going to turn this over to Terry, who is our first speaker for the evening.
Okay, I want to open up tonight's presentation by asking you a question. And the question I have for you is, what comes to your mind immediately when I use the term public relations? Is it news publicity? Is it press releases, spin, maybe hype? If you answered yes, you're a lot like other people. And our purpose tonight is to broaden your understanding, is to crack that perspective wide open and talk about what it truly is. So let's watch a very thought-provoking presentation of what it really is.
So what is public relations? Is it managing your image? Is it spin? Is it blasting news releases? That's not how we see it. To us, it's about your story and the chance to tell it. It's about relationships with real people, your customers, who today will embrace your story if it's made for them. It's also about clicks and tweets and views and likes. It's also the New York Times and local papers, conversations over the back fence. PR today is about making news and sometimes being news and knowing the difference. The opportunity to affect attitudes and change perceptions, to earn or charm your way into conversation by what, how, and where you say it. Start the conversation. Join the conversation. Change the conversation.
So if we take the essence of what that little clip told us, we know that PR is telling your story, okay? Plain and simple. That's what it boils down to. And it's about finding the chances to tell your story, and we're going to talk more about that tonight. I'm going to touch on it, and my colleagues will talk a lot more about the chances to tell your story. And then it's the key word, relations. It's about the relationships with those who matter most to your organizations. Who are the ones you want to win over? And the question of who is something that I'm going to spend a little bit of time on tonight, not a lot, because basically we're talking about who needs to hear your story, and I think that you're probably pretty knowledgeable of who matters to you most. Who is it that you need to engage into your organization? What's your typical donor look like? What's their profile? What's your typical volunteer look like? What's their profile? Generally, you know the makeup of those that matter to you most. But what's important is that we talk about the fact that those groups are not just external. The internal groups are those you must have a solid relationship with first before you move on. A good public relations program is built on solid relationships inside the organization. I don't know how big all of your organizations are. I imagine some of them could be a one-person show, maybe a two-person, a three-person show, maybe a couple of volunteers. But you are the inside relationship that makes everything else happen. And your board of directors, should that be the case, or your group of volunteers, or perhaps the volunteers that just come in and out occasionally, those people are people who need to be in touch with everything you're doing, what you're about, and they need to understand your story. They need to be able to talk intelligently about it. So that's where public relations begins. So the video clip talked about where the conversations are happening, and it also talked about how the conversations are happening, and that's really why we're here tonight, the where and the how. And so I'm going to start, let me step back a minute. Oh, can I go back a minute? Oh. Thank you. So I want to talk about, first I want to mention the fact that I love the word conversation. And the reason I love the word conversation is it really depicts the essence of building those relationships, the one-on-one, the exchange. Any basic definition of communication talks about the exchange of information. You know, the going to the head and away from the head. If you went to college and took communications, you know, it's the diagram. But conversation really means, it can be literal, and we're definitely going to talk about that. But it can also, it's talking about the connection. the two-way communication that happens, the indirect two-way communication that happens. It's talking about the engagement, the connections with the people that matter most. And I want to break those audiences down tonight, the people that matter most. We could drill down into segments. Perhaps you're interested in youth ages 13 to 20, maybe just women ages 25 to 45, maybe it's the general family household. But I'm going to break it into three primary groups tonight just to illustrate where and how you can develop a plan around these segments. So first I have youth, and it's no surprise that technology kind of leads their life and their social conversations and things that they're happening. But we're also going to talk about venues. We're going to talk about platforms and about venues. And those events that you will find youth participating in could be sporting events, libraries, shopping centers, cinemaplexes. You know it just as well as I do. And then we're going to move on to the next group, which would be middle-agers. I'll call them middle-agers because I broke it down into three categories. And the list is a little longer here, and we have some traditional things on here that you wouldn't find necessarily on the youth list. This is where the conversations are happening. This is where the information is being exchanged. And I want to point out that in this area in particular, because we're a rural area, civic groups, chambers of commerces, the Rotaries, the Kiwanis, we have a lot of those groups that are very, very active and have many, many events. And they provide perfect venues to tell your story, to really speak to particularly this group, the middle-agers. Oh, and I forgot to mention I had TV on that list. I'm not sure, Frank mentioned our Comcast Channel 22. SNJ Today broadcasts to all the Comcast cable subscribers in the Cumberland County area. So our television programming is reaching that audience if that's important to you. So senior market, okay, so the list gets longer because this is a demographic which has a lot more time to socialize, and it becomes more important to them. So they're maybe not leading the digital communication that's going on, but they're getting involved in it. They're getting involved in it. And radio and TV, they have the time to find recreation and enjoyment and socialize in some of these platforms. Unfortunately, medical and healthcare facilities are just a fact. You're going to see more common rotation of visits to those facilities by the seniors. So we've talked about where some of the conversations are happening, where exactly, what platforms in which the communication and the connections are happening. Traditional media can't be overlooked. It's just that today, traditional media is not so traditional. We have the print version, the conventional version that's still out and about, but the digital version is becoming much more popular and it's more fast-paced, just like the rest of our technology. So what I'd like to kind of focus on tonight is how you cater to all of those platforms. How do you present your message in a simple way, in a scientific way, on all of those platforms, especially when you have one person doing it, a quarter of a person doing it, or no person doing it. Someone stepping to the plate to volunteer to maybe help that story get out. And I believe that's probably the case with many of you tonight. Am I right about that? Okay. So let's talk about the components that are important, because the truth is the media still reaches the masses. Social media obviously reaches the masses. And our news media is still reaching the masses. What's different today is people aren't waiting for the news. The news is coming to them. It's coming to them. And probably the most important, one of the handouts I have for you tonight, and it might be helpful, it might be something you already have, but I thought it was important to provide for you a list of local contacts for local and regional media. Some of you may have already developed very good relationships with editors and reporters from these different outlets. But sometimes it's good to know exactly what topics editors are responsible for, or what areas of interest they represent in researching, different stories and things they'd like to do. And it's always good when you do provide something to follow up on it and to have email addresses at your fingertips, because that's probably the most common and preferred way for news sources to get their information, for news outlets to get their information. So make sure you pick that up on your way out and see if maybe you can add some numbers or names to your directory. So now we're going to talk about how to build your message, particularly when working with the media. So the first one, whoops. Thank you, Kevin. Okay. So the first one is, you're responsible for creating your story. Let me also say that in these economic times, everyone's doing more with less. Many of you are probably saying, we're doing more with nothing, but you're doing more with less. And guess what? The media companies are no different. There are less roving reporters, there are less photographers. They're working with a meager staff in most instances. So they're no longer able to resource themselves so that they're constantly looking for the stories in the news. They're just not able to. It happens, but not as frequently as it used to. What's happening is they're more receptive. Capitalize on this, folks. Capitalize on this. They're more receptive to receiving information. They're more receptive to hearing your story, hearing what's progressing in your organization. How is it advancing? What exactly are you doing that's different, new, or noteworthy? So your job first is to create your story. You're in your organization or about your organization every day. See what is it? What have we done recently that's new and different? What's something that has advanced us? Did we get the grant? Did someone advance their education? Did someone get a certification in something that made them more of an authority of something? Did someone attend something that you paid for or that, improved your organization? That might be noteworthy. It's, at least in some instances, as long as it's presented correctly, worth the mention. So find your story. Figure out what your latest news story is. And then tell the story. You're going to report it. You're going to give the facts. No longer are you going to call somebody up. And it occasionally happens when you really have stellar news going on. But no longer are you going to call somebody up and say, hey, we just did this. And they're going to say, got somebody on it right away. Unfortunately, a lot of the times, as Frank mentioned earlier, they got somebody at the accident site, but kind of understanding that you just got a new grant or that you're going to get a new exhibit isn't always something they're going to rush to. So providing them that, feeding them that information, puts you more in control and gives you better opportunity of being in print. So then display your story. And what I mean by this is we're very visually stimulated. USA Today launched when it did decades ago, so had a smashing success because they were the first ones to put full color photos everywhere in their paper. And they started the rage. And today we just love visuals. Well, newspapers sell more papers when they have lots of visuals. So photographs, video clips. Kevin will be talking more about how to build that into your program. Graphics, any kind of image that relates to what's going on in your organization. Now, if we go back up to creating your story, let's say it is the grant. You've received the grant. And now you're going to let them know you received the grant. How much you received, where it's going, who you got it from. And display your story. Okay, we all know about the check presentation picture where the large check is eating everybody up. We know about that picture. Maybe a twist of things could be, how are you using the grant? Maybe you're using it for payroll. Maybe you're using it just to pay for supplies. But maybe a picture of your volunteers at work could illustrate that in an interesting way that might grab an editor's or reporter's attention. And if it grabs their attention and it's a decent quality photo, there's a better chance they're going to use it. There's a better chance they're going to use it. And then the final one is repeating your story. You've got the grant, You've already explained and gave a media announcement that says you received the grant and what you're going to do with it. And maybe what you're going to do with it is have an exhibit. You're going to, lease an exhibit that's going to visit your location or be part of your organization for a certain time. So now you know you're leasing this. There's another noteworthy tone. Coming in March, we're going to be showing this. We're going to have this on our premises. And then March comes, and there's another golden opportunity. 3 times, all from the original grant. And then sometime in April, while the exhibit's still there, the Holly Heights or the Cherry Street or the, Edgerton Memorial, some school visits it. What a photo opportunity that is. But it's your photo opportunity. It used to be we relied on the media to come and take that photo. It's your photo opportunity. And if you can get a decent quality photo of that and send it with some information, you have a 4th chance to tell your story, a 4th chance. So, we've talked about where the conversations are happening and how they are with media. These are the other ways they're happening electronically. And none of this is rocket science. We already know about all of these, but I just thought it was important to kind of put them together, couch them together, because these should be incorporated, and some of them are low cost or no cost in your PR plan. And then the more traditional and print, which is still viable. I don't know about anybody here, but when I get a direct mail on a date that I need, it goes up on my refrigerator. So, and unfortunately, some of those are not the most economically viable as they used to be. But if you have a good mail list and you know you're hitting the target, it might be worth it. But I want to mention signage, because it might seem peculiar to some people up there, signage. We live in a very rural area with major corridors, and that lends itself to signage. There's signs about school events, there's signs about craft events, there's signs about all kinds of art exhibits and things that are happening in our area. But that signage works. If you can get a sponsor or have some means to use those signs, they're a constant reminder to people what's going on with your organization. So I want to take and kind of stream out a hypothetical example. Can everybody read that? Can you see that? Because I'll read it out loud if you can't. This is a hypothetical example of an ABC gallery in XYZ town. They're having a showcase of student works this Friday at the local library. And so we've taken one of the works, okay? We've taken a student work. That's a pretty good community story. We've taken a student work. We own the work, so we say who, what, when, where, why, very simply. It's just the facts. And all of a sudden, we have put together a couple of sentences that we're hoping an editor will read, or someone who puts media, news announcements together, and we have the caption, so they know why they're getting that image. And we take that same who, what, when, where, why, the same ingredients. We're keeping it simple because that's our formula. And we have a flyer. Same information, same graphic, nothing different, and it's consistent. So if you look at all of the different platforms, if you look at all the different, I should say ways, not platforms, all of the different ways you can communicate, all of the different how do I give my message, all the different ways, and you take the same formula, this information, which can be translated for a flyer, can be used for everything on that list. There's not one communication medium on that list that this basic message couldn't be used for. If you identify it as belonging to your organization, if it's in print with a logo, if it's on digital, on your social media page, or whatever the case may be, you've just conquered one of the primary rules of branding, and that is consistency. It's a simple message given the same way, many times through many different tools, and it's easy to communicate. It's easy to present. So the grand finale, and one of the things I really want to make a really important point of is Frank stood up here and Frank talked about SNJ Today. That's an organization he's behind, that's an organization he believes in. And he really did a great job telling you about what's important to the organization. And he probably appealed to some of your personal interests. I'm here to tell you that Frank's 5 minutes up at this podium was priceless compared to any dollars SNJ Today can spend on its public relations plan. And the reason is face-to-face is still the most viable communication platform for anything in your PR program. Whether it's the exhibit out at the local festival, or you get the opportunity to speak in front of a congregation or group, such as we have tonight, or it's one-on-one with that prospective donor, or prospective volunteer, whatever the case may be. Face-to-face is still the most effective communication public relations tool. And so I suggest to you, I realize, and this is the other thing, I realize some of you may be saying, God bless you, I realize some of you may be saying, it's just me. How am I getting to all those places? How am I supposed to do that? Gets back to that foundation I talked about earlier, making sure people connected inside your organization can knowledgeably represent and speak about your organization. It doesn't always have to be you. Taking the effort to make sure someone else in the organization can represent you will go a long way. So, effective PR, we talked about creatively telling your story, and I don't mean creative in the artistic way. I mean creatively using your resources, simplifying things, so that you can take those resources, you can take that message, and you can repeat it many times on multiple platforms, and finding the right opportunities to send that message, to deliver that message, to either deliver it verbally, in print, digitally, however that's going to be. Talking about the event a month and a half before it happens is a wise thing, but only if you're going to be talking about it as the event gets closer. I think probably many of you know that. And then developing those strong relationships. Any relationship that you have, particularly with current advocates, keeping that relationship going is more important than developing a new one. It's more important than developing a new one. And that's what public relations is all about. So I thank you. I look forward to seeing you at the breakout session, and I'll turn the mic over to Kevin.
All right, hello everybody. I'm the manager of video production here at SNJ Today. My name is Kevin Malone. And today we're going to talk about seeing is believing, video messaging and storytelling in an active world. We're going to kind of go about it two ways. We're going to talk about some basic tips, how to make a good video on your own, and then go through how to get your message out there. So the very first thing I'm going to talk about are rules. And in the video world, there are no rules. Morpheus isn't exactly lying here because they're mostly guidelines. In video, these rules that we have can be broken, but the real important thing is to talk about why you're going to break them to get your message out there. You can manipulate your message if you break some of these rules. Before we do that, we're going to talk about what some of the rules are. The first one here, this is the rule of thirds, and it's here we have a guy who's looking into the camera, and this is something you might have all seen on your phone before. It's a grid, like a tic-tac-toe board. It splits the screen into 9 sections, and what that does is it basically gives you a guide on how to frame a good image. You can see on the very top horizontal line, his eyes are resting near there, and on the bottom, his mouth is basically there. And he's framed into vertical lines. Now this is for when you're going to address facing the camera. If you're interviewing somebody, you want to frame it a little bit differently. You want to frame it with the person off to the side on one of the vertical lines with his eyes facing an empty space. And this gives a nice open frame. And we're going to talk about some options where you can break this rule, but 100% of the time, if you frame it like this, people are going to say, oh, it's a nice shot. They're not going to think about it. And ultimately, that's the goal. You don't want people to think about your video. In terms of a video, you want them to think about your message. So another rule we're going to talk about is the Soviet rule of montage. That sounds super boring, and we're going to talk about it for your purposes. What this is there's a director from the 1920s, his name is Sergei Eisenstein, and he made a movie that you may have heard of called The Battleship Potemkin. And actually the first place I saw it was in my high school class. And the Battleship Potemkin, there's a scene called the Odessa Staircase sequence. If you look it up on YouTube, it's amazing. he wanted to tell a story, and film didn't have a language to help him tell his story. So what he did is he realized what human nature does. And what human nature does is this. When you see that same image, and you see a person, in this case, he's expressionless, and then you cut to something else, like pancakes, and then you cut back to the person, those three images tell a story, and what's the story that it tells? He's hungry. Now his expression didn't change. You can put anything in between those two shots. If it's something sad, he's sad. If it's something nice, he's happy, etc., etc. So that's really interesting, but what it really means for us is that video is sort of the perfect opportunity to manipulate your audience, to get them to believe your message. Everything that you see is important because you can shape what's being believed in the video. For example, if you're making a video and the paint is a weird color, it's going to make people feel weird or whatever, everything that you see in a frame is important, and every shot that you show is important. And the rules are essential. A case study here is if your organization wants to make a video recruiting volunteers, and you say, our organization is the best place for volunteers. And when they're walking down the hallway of our theater or whatever, they're high-fiving each other, there's Legos in the break room, it's just the coolest place in the world. And this sounds ridiculous, but I've literally seen videos like this. The B-roll, or the shots going over the person talking, are a guy slouched over a desk typing, and then like two people at the water cooler, but they're clearly awkward on camera, and they're just kind of wooden, like that. Those two things tell a very different message. So maybe this isn't the best place for volunteers. So obviously, if you show the Legos in the break room and you see people high-fiving, it goes along with what he's saying, and the message that you're delivering lines up with the image, and that is so valuable. So the other side of this now is, so we know seeing is believing. We can shape that message. But to be believed, you need to be seen. And video, especially in the cases here, video is the perfect opportunity to reach the people that you care about. So you really need to understand who those people are. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but this is really always, when talking about online video, the big white elephant in the room of online video. It's what makes a video viral. That's Gangnam Style. I'm sure you've all seen it or heard of it. It has 2 billion views and it's the most viewed video in the history of YouTube. Why is it viral? Well, not for any reason that is relevant to anyone in this room. But he's wearing fancy clothes and he's singing a catchy song and the video is awesome. So it caught on. Timing was right and it just caught on. But I'm going to say something and it's a little bit controversial, probably, but hear me out. Going viral on a massive scale probably doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. Except it might matter. It might matter a little bit. But we're going to talk about those two things. I like to think of it as macro-viral versus micro-viral. Macro-viral, on a big scale, obviously, is Gangnam Style. It's millions of views. Micro-viral is something that happened to us recently here at SNJ Today. We film Cowtown Rodeo every Saturday, and we released a video called Booger the Bull Gets Revenge on 3 Grown Men. And this bull is an amazing video. Took the people, threw one guy up in the air, threw another guy out of the ring, and then cartwheeled the third guy. And it's awesome. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out on our YouTube page. We posted 2 videos, and between the 2, they have about 10,000 views. That's not 2 billion. That's not even 15 million or 10 million or whatever. That's 15,000 or 10,000, excuse me. But what it did, though, on a micro scale, is it gave us the opportunity to reach people in our community that didn't know about it. Some people that we talked to said, I didn't even know there was a rodeo in South Jersey. Some other people that we talked to said, I knew there was a rodeo in South Jersey, but I had no idea that people were covering it. In fact, we cover it every week. So we really had an opportunity to reach our customers in a way that we never had before, and it was just through this micro-viral video. I want to talk about another case study here. That's the Apparently kid. I'm sure everyone's heard of him by now. He has 15.5 million views. 15.5 million views. And it's justifiable because he's adorable. But something interesting, when you go onto the YouTube page and read the comments, a lot of the comments are really not good. Some of them are talking about the kid in nasty ways. Some of them are talking about the American education system and how it's failing us. Then a third comment is about nothing in particular, just someone trolling everybody else. And then maybe when you get to the 5th or 6th comment, they're like, wow, that kid's adorable. And you know what's interesting is, this is a guess, it's an estimate, but I'm guessing that out of the 15.5 million people that watched that video, maybe 15.3 of them never noticed the mic flag in that shot. WNEP, Channel 16. They're a local news station from Scranton. And the next step here is you have to know your audience, and that's something that Scranton did very well, NEP. They realized, they identified, okay, we have a video that might go viral here, let's upload it. That's the only trick, because timing is the only thing that really matters. But talking macro versus micro viral, because this video went macro viral, it also went micro viral. So that's why I say it probably matters. The people in Scranton were so happy when this video came out because it's a positive news story coming out of a town that isn't used to having positive stories. And it wouldn't have been possible on the scale that it went viral if it wasn't on a macro scale. So video really does give you the opportunity to reach the people that you care about. And this is something that our CEO said to me. He said, video is the perfect opportunity to perfect your sales pitch. And man, that articulated something for me in a way that I never thought of before, because if you asked me today what SNJ Today was, I would stand up in front of you and say, SNJ Today is a traditional and new media, and I'd get flustered because I'm not a great public speaker, and I would okay, we're new and traditional, we deliver positive stories in innovative and engaging ways. Yes, I did it. Not the best pitch. Video, if you ask me what's SNJ Today, and I have a 1-minute long clip on my phone, and I can say, watch this, it gives you the perfect opportunity to perfect that pitch. And everything that you see in that video, everything that is said in that video is saying, wow, these guys really do tell positive stories in innovative and engaging ways. Video gives you that opportunity. So you need to be able to get seen before any of this can happen. And how do you do that? With some of the obvious examples are Vimeo and YouTube and websites. And really it doesn't matter, because no matter where you are, you need to go out and find your audience. They won't find you on their own. So let's talk a little bit about active viewing versus passive viewing. What is passive viewing first, because that's the least important of the two. Passive viewing is going onto your house, and you're sitting on your couch, and maybe you're watching like a Ken Burns documentary or a football game or something, and you're sitting there and you have a snack, and the video gets a little boring, or the football game goes to commercial. Well, you're probably not going to switch it because the remote's all the way on the coffee table, and you're in a passive environment. You're okay to deal with something that kind of loses your interest for a second because you trust in the history of this medium that it's going to pick up again. Now, active viewing is the opposite of that. It's leaning forward over a computer, there's distractions, and you're ready for the next thing, and you're consuming, and that's what most people are doing. I like to think of active viewing as this sort of giant warehouse, where your content is that little box in the top right, and everything else on the internet is pulling for your attention. And that's so true. This is our Book of the Bull video, and this is an active viewing environment, YouTube. It's the biggest active viewing environment. So one thing that we did to kind of alleviate the pool of other people's attention is we set up our channel to be in a playlist, and this is something that you can do through YouTube settings. So on the right, in the black, I can use shadow here. Those are all our other videos in our playlist that we chose. So when you see that video, and if you just forget to hit stop because something else pulled your attention, you're going to see the next one automatically. But on the bottom right, there's other people's videos sneaking in. There's those other distractions. So the key here in an active viewing world is your video needs to be as engaging as possible from the very first second. There's some stats that I'm going to tell you a little bit later that are sort of mind-blowing. But your video needs to be engaging, and how do you do that? Well, there's a few different ways. The very first thing is remember that every second, from literally second one, is important. If you have a logo and it's an animation and it takes 10 seconds, people are going to not watch it. That's how dire this online video world is. When I worked at Runner's World, we had a 10-second animation, and we decided to switch it to a 2-second animation, and our video engagement went up about 35 to 40%. The other thing to talk about is video quality. And it's really essential, and it's following those rules. It's knowing how to light, even if you don't have a professional light. There's tricks that you can use natural light as long as you frame them right. You put the light so it's facing their face. Don't put the person in front of a window and film towards the window because it's going to expose to the window, and the person's going to be in silhouette. So there's a lot of different quality tricks, but the key thing is to just make sure you're telling a good story. And another quality piece that I want to mention is, if you're going to go out and you're going to tell your story, make sure that it sounds good. That's the most important thing. If you have a camera, invest in a microphone for that camera. It doesn't have to be a great microphone, it just needs to sound clear. And if you don't have a microphone, which you should get one, go to get as close as possible to the person with the camera that you're using, no matter what it is, and get good sound, because if you don't have good sound, people are not going to watch your video. So I want to talk a little bit more. This is the image we saw earlier, the rule of thirds, and his eye line and all that. Now, this is something that we shot here at SNJ Today. We were in an environment where there wasn't room to set up lights. We have, of course, high-quality professional lighting, but we were in this gentleman's dining room, and there wasn't room for lights. I didn't want to scratch his furniture. So we lit it using a window. And really, it's not about the lighting, it's about knowing how to frame and knowing the way to manipulate natural environments to do what you want it to do. So it is possible to do this well without professional equipment. It's about knowing these tricks. And I talked about the rule of thirds, and I said I would show you a way to break that. So let me give you an example. This is not what this video is about, but let's pretend. This guy, let's say this is a video about people whose houses were damaged in floods or something like that. And he's talking, and on camera he says, the water was rushing in my basement, and I knew I had to get out. There was nothing else I could do. That's really powerful content. And if it's framed like that, people are going to respond really well to it. But if you want to do something a little bit different, you can kind of frame him without that eye room. And even when he says, there was nothing else I could do, I knew I had to get out, all of a sudden, you as a viewer feel claustrophobic. You feel his tension because you framed him a little bit differently. Now, if you're going to try to do stuff like this, it's important, like when he talks about the organization that helped him get out of the flood, you go back to normal framing, but there's little tricks like that you can do that really help you tell a story. And again, the message here is that Soviet rule of montage. Video gives you the perfect opportunity to craft the message that you want to tell. Just adjusting the frame like that tells the story subconsciously, and it makes the viewer feel that. So let's talk about some of these stats I was mentioning. A bounce rate means someone started watching and then left. 20% of the audience on the online video world stopped watching a video within 10 seconds. 1 out of every 5. That's huge, and mostly that's because of people's animations for their companies and their corporations or whatever. And by the way, these are not things I made up. These are from a Forrester study. But I can tell you in some of my experiences, these are pretty darn accurate. 1/3 of the audience stopped watching after 30 seconds. So we're growing, and then nearly after a minute, it's nearly half, 44% stopped watching. So the trick really is to catch them from the first moment. And if you have engaging content and you're telling it in a good way, people will stick with it. It's just a matter of getting them to do that. Excuse me. This is a pretty interesting stat from the same Forrester study. Professionally produced videos outperform user-generated videos by 30%. Outperform means views, it means engagement score, specifically engagement score. Now, professionally produced videos don't mean you have to spend millions of dollars on a video. It means framing it with the light hitting right, it means getting good sound quality, it means good editing. Of course, what I would say is, if you're gonna, for your organization, you're gonna make 19, 20 different videos, focus on one, make one your message video, make one your key message video, and really maybe consider hiring SNJ Today to make it. It doesn't have to be us, it should be, but it doesn't have to be. But professionally produced videos, people respond to, and that's because everyone's able to buy a camera, buy a DSLR camera and capture a good image. Not everyone's able to tell a good story. People respond to stories even when they don't know that they're responding to those stories. From that same study, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video is worth 1.8 million words or 6,500 pages of a book. That's not obviously, this is for a 1-minute video, by the way, that's obviously not for the amount of information. It's for engagement. What that's telling you is 1 minute of a video mixed with some of these powerful images that are helping you tell your story is more memorable to people than 6,500 pages of a book, because video really does, again, give you the perfect opportunity to perfect your message. So when we talk about these, I'm just going to run through these really fast. The Soviet roller montage. Again, the Odessa staircase sequence from 1925 is one of the best moments in movie history, but what it teaches us is that you can manipulate the image to perfect your message. And really, that's what's so important. You have to have a true understanding of your audience and what the messages that they want to receive. Go out and talk to people face to face, and that benefits you for many reasons, because you're not going to know what your audience wants until you go find what they want. And you can find that by talking to them. It's really that simple. If you cater your message to an active viewing experience, you're going to be so much better off. If you have downtime in your video, you have to really make sure that that downtime is for a reason. You have to make sure that it's a powerful moment, because if there's a moment of just music and pictures, people are off. Make your video as high quality as possible. We talked about the importance of professionally produced videos. And I always laugh because I don't mean this in a negative way, but people are selfish in the internet. And they respond to messages that directly affect them. Obviously, not every message here is going to directly affect everyone that you're trying to reach. But you can kind of craft your message in a way that most people are going to take either, they're going to take one way or the other. They're going to say, okay, I agree with this or I don't agree with this. And no matter what, you're engaging them because it's about something that they care about. So if you can find a way to find your target audience and craft that message to talk to them directly, you're going to nail your video message. This is the most basic of examples, but when I worked at Runner's World magazine, when we did documentary style pieces, they would perform fairly well because they had good stories. And then when we performed videos on how you can make your abs better, they blew up. Because people want to know how to make their abs better. So that's the metaphor I like to use. How can you make your video give people better abs? So get out there, perfect your message. I have business cards. Talk to me at the breakout table. Feel free to ask me about any questions. I don't mind assisting and giving you advice, or SNJ Today can help you make your video, but feel free to reach out to me whenever you want to, and thank you for your time.
All right, I'll apologize ahead of time for my voice. It is on its way out because of my seasonal allergies here. But if I start to squeak or anything, just bear with me here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about web technology tonight. I'm going to talk about creating websites that work. There's 3 words that are at the bottom of this presentation that are at the bottom of every single person's presentation. Tell your story. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute and explain why that is so crucial in the web world, to tell your story properly. Kev, what did I do? There we go. All right, so I'm going to cover 4 topics today. The first is web design, because that's where you have to start. You have to have the site. You have to have the site designed before you can get to the other features. The second part is search engine optimization. All that really means is how your website is found when people search on the internet. Because what good is a beautiful website if no one can see it? Search engine advertising is the third part I'm going to address, and that's paid placements on the internet to show your website. And the fourth part, which I'm really excited about, is a really, really hot topic right now. It's called website remarketing. I think that's going to be the most intriguing thing to you because it's the most inexpensive form of web advertising today. And you can expose your message to a lot of people for a very, very, very small price. You thought you were going to see something pretty, web designs, and I'm showing you a boring graphic, a boring chart here. Well, this chart is super, super important, and I'll explain why. What this chart is demonstrating is international statistics for how big people's monitors are. Why does that matter? What does that have to do with the design of my website? Well, in short, it has everything to do with the design of your website, because this represents your market. All these different browser resolutions represent the people that you're trying to get your message to. And if your website isn't accommodating to their screen, they're not going to stay on your website. They're not going to get your message, and they're not going to learn what your story is. So the most crucial part of any web design starts with this big nerdy chart here, and that's making sure that the design of your site accommodates the most amount of people possible on the internet. So that whether someone's on a giant, beautiful, big screen monitor or a really crummy old CRT monitor that flickers a lot, that every single person can see your message and understand it. Not to get too nerdy, but as of today, 99% of all website visitors have a screen resolution of what we call 1024 by 768 pixels or higher. In plain English, all that means is there's 1,024 pixels wide. If you make your website accommodate that view, you'll get 99% of all the world's market. So, I just told you 1024, right? Now why am I telling you 995? Because that little scroll bar that goes up and down on every single website, that takes up a lot of real estate on the page. So if your website's going to scroll up and down, you have to actually even make it a little smaller than that so people don't have to scroll left or right to read your message. This is just something I would encourage you to write down, take back to your web developer, your web designer, and say, make sure that my website is accommodating to the most browser resolutions possible. And if you fit this, if your content area only goes to 995 pixels, you'll accommodate 99% of all people worldwide. Because what good is a beautiful message and a beautiful site if no one can read it? Now we'll get to the pretty stuff. Here we go. So here's an example of a website that accommodates old monitors that are only 1024 pixels wide, and new monitors that are widescreen and big, beautiful contrast. So here's a local business, and here's what their site looks at 1024 pixels wide. You can still read their content left to right. It's not cut off. You don't have to scroll left to right. You do have to scroll up and down, but that's pretty much any website. Here's how that exact same website looks on someone with a higher resolution monitor. They actually see just a little bit more of the side graphics. They see some of these beautiful fruits and vegetables, the feel behind it, but none of the message hasn't changed. The words on the page, the message you want to get to them can still be seen whether they have the old 1024 monitor or the big new beautiful monitor. Here's another example. This is a irrigation company, old 1024 monitor, new wider screen. Wine, who doesn't like wine? We gotta throw this in here. So here's a wine company, wine importer, at a 1024 screen, really small screen. This would represent a very, very small viewing area. And there's the same website on a larger screen. It's not all about the look as much as it's about conveying that message. You don't have to have the world's most stunning website visually. Don't get me wrong, I think you should, and it engages the user. However, if your message is cut off, that's worse than anything. You could have the most beautiful website ever, but if your message is cut off, you're not doing yourself any favors. Well, let's talk a little about mobile browsers. This is pretty hot right now. A lot of people are using their phone to access the internet. They're using tablets to access the internet. And that changes the way they view your website. I'm sure we've all gone to sites on our phone that aren't mobile friendly. It's not pretty. You're scrolling left, you're scrolling right. You say, what did that say? You're trying to read it. You're scrolling over, you're scrolling up, you're scrolling down. You feel a little crazy by the time you're done. You feel dizzy because you've been scrolling in circles trying to read a website. Well, mobile device use on the internet is up 33% in 1 year. these numbers are going through the roof. Mobile is expected to be a huge chunk of viewership in the next couple of years. And the growth rate is completely unprecedented right now. So a lot of people think about, well, what do I do to reach my mobile audience? Oh man, I gotta go out and get a mobile site developed. I have to have an iPhone app built. Oh man, I have to have an Android app built. Oh, this is gonna get expensive. I'm gonna tell you today, you don't have to do any of that. If your site is built properly from the get-go, you don't have to build mobile sites. You don't have to build apps. You don't have to worry about, oh, what about Android? Oh, what about OS systems? No, you don't have to worry about any of this. Because there's something now called responsive design. And responsive design is a web design approach aimed at crafting sites to provide an optimal viewing experience across a wide range of devices. Plain English, what that means is you've got one site that's built with responsive design. It will work perfectly on mobiles. It'll work perfectly on desktops. It'll work perfectly on tablets. And you don't have to spend the money to have a mobile site built. You don't have to worry, oh, am I losing 10% of my audience because I'm not mobile friendly? And I'll explain how responsive design works in a second. But the benefits of having responsive design are this: better user experience, because no matter what device they go on, they still get your message. Your message is not cut off. It's also agnostic to user platforms. And what that means is, we've all gone on a website where it says, oh, you're on an iPhone, download our app for iPhone. You're like, great, so you pull out your Android tablet, the same website wants you to download the Android app. That's really annoying. People don't like that, and they hate to have to download all these different plugins to make your website work. A responsive design is agnostic to whatever platform they're on. It's going to work no matter what kind of phone, what kind of computer they're on, it doesn't care. It's also better for search engines. Because when you build a website and then you build another mobile site on top of it, the mobile site gets picked up in search engines on its own terms, and the regular site gets picked up on its own terms. Wouldn't you love to just be able to combine those and get all that web traffic in one spot and reap the benefits of that? Well, responsive design actually accomplishes that. It's also easier to update. You don't have to worry about, well, I updated the calendar. Did we update the mobile version of the calendar this month? Ah, shoot, we forgot to do that. So all our mobile viewers, they don't even know what's happening. You don't have to worry about those things. This is responsive design, and I'll explain a little more in detail how it works. This is a restaurant called Niso's. It's just a Greek restaurant. And in the middle there, you'll see that's what their site looks like on a desktop computer. It's pretty, it's got shots of the Greek islands behind it, it's giving that whole flavor and everything. But we realized that on a mobile, we don't have room for all that flavor. We need to get people our message immediately. You'll see what happens when they go to it on your iPhone here, or any phone. The site actually morphs itself. It creates its own web version without making a separate mobile site. And it turns the menu up top into that little square that you can hit. It's all touch friendly. I'd encourage you, if you want to try it out on your phone later, you can go to nisosrestaurant.com and check it out. You can see what it does. But that's all one website. The website's just smart enough to change depending on your device. It's also a lot more cost effective to build your site this way, because you don't have to build other modules later. Well, now that I've talked about designing your site properly, you've got a pretty site, your site's search engine friendly, your site's responsive, it's mobile friendly. How do you get the message out there to the public? How do you optimize your site for search engines? I'll be honest, search engine optimization is an enigma. It's a huge algorithm that you have to meet a whole bunch of different criteria to do it perfectly. But I'm going to give you just the basics of it today. This is something everyone can go back and do and make your site stand out on search engines. It won't cost you a dime. It's exactly just really it boils down to telling your message in a clear and concise way. And Google actually appreciates that. Things that matter for search engine optimization. Having shorter term specific pages. And I'll explain what that means. Let's say your organization does 10 different services that you provide. It's much better if you have 10 different pages, one page representing each individual service that your organization provides, than having one page called Our Services and stuffing all 10 of them all down a list. Why? Because Google's not very smart. Google's not a human being. It can't parse out information. It can only look at a page and go, well, what's that page about? Google reads your pages top to bottom, left to right like a human being, but it can't decipher, it can't put things in categories. So we have to do that on behalf of Google. So if Google reads an our services page that talks about, well, we do this, Google reads it and gets confused. It says, well, I'm not sure what this company does. They do a lot of things. But if you make term-specific pages, service one, boom, Google reads it and goes, okay, this page is about this service. Service two, page by itself. Google reads it and goes, okay, this page is about this service. And Google will index your pages properly within the search engines if it can understand what each individual page is about. So I encourage you, it doesn't hurt to have a lot more pages, a lot more shorter, concise pages. And for us human beings out here, it's actually a little easier for us to read, remember, and retain a shorter page. So the other thing is proper page titles. This is the one that's like my pet peeve. I can't tell you how many websites I've gone to, and up at the top little tab on your browser, the name of the page is homepage. Homepage. Well, that's only good if someone's searching for homepage. If the name of your pages are homepage, not really going to do you a whole lot of good if people are looking for a specific goods, services that you provide. So just simply naming their pages things that people are looking for and things that are the topic of the page will go so far. The next thing is keyword density. I'm sure we've all heard the term keywords batted around. Keywords used to be something you could stuff in behind the scenes. They were called meta tags. The problem is people started stuffing in key terms into their websites that weren't really applicable to the content of the site. Google got hip to that and started reading websites itself, and now Google actually comes up with what the keywords are for your site. So the best thing you can do is write accurate content. So as long as your content is specific and speaks to the key terms that you're trying to convey to someone, you'll be fine. The amount of traffic a site gets, this is really, really, really crucial. And it's kind of one of those more annoying parts of SEO, because you say, how do I get more traffic if I'm not higher ranked? And how do I get ranked higher if I don't have traffic? It's a catch-22. Sir, what's your name? Tom, okay. Let's say, for example, Tom and I are in competitive industries. But we both have great websites. They're both search engine optimized for the same type of terms. But I just kind of rest on my laurels and say, wow, I've got a great website. Sure hope people come to it. Tom, on the other hand, goes out there and tells everybody he knows, check out my website. Go visit this on my website. He emails people about his website. He blogs on his website. He creates news articles that are released on his website. Well, Tom's pushing traffic to his website naturally by getting people to go there. And Google's going to come back and look at both of our companies and go, well, they're both optimized well for the same search terms, but Tom's gets a lot more traffic than Bryan's does. So therefore, Google's going to rank Tom a lot higher than Bryan. So, simple piece of advice is get people to go to your site. Get them to go there naturally. Encourage friends and family. Social media we'll talk about in a minute. Use those tools to get people to go to your site, because the more hits you have on your site, the higher Google's going to rank you for those terms. The other part of this is how many sites that link back into your website. If other people are willing to link to your content, Google says, wow, that content must be important enough that other people are willing to link their sites to it, and give them a bump in the search engines. And Rebecca will address that a little bit more with some of the social media as well. So here's a little bit of an example of SEO, search engine placement. I typed in South Jersey crane rental companies. And I'm sure we're all familiar here with the ones that say ad beside it. That's paid placement right there, the one with the yellow ad. But everything below that is free. That's search engine optimization. The first one that comes up, gartensrigging.com. The name of the page is Crane Rental in South Jersey. It's not homepage. Crane Rental in South Jersey. The term South Jersey crane rental. Boom, #1 placement on Google. That's free. All these other competitors are spending a lot of money to be there, and Gartens is getting it done for free because their site has proper page names, proper descriptions. If I read the descriptions, it says we are a South Jersey crane rental and rigging service, servicing clients in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. Who, what, when, where, why. That's all we had to do is answer those questions. Your homepage just has to say, who are you? What do you do? Where are you located? How do you do it? If you just simply follow that rule and just tell your story, you're going to help yourself for search engine placement. So let me talk a little bit about the stuff that isn't free. Pay per click. This is also known as Google AdWords. You've heard that term thrown around. This is where you actually pay for search terms, and every time someone clicks on the term, your ad gets displayed. It's got some pros and cons. I'll give you the cons first. It can get really expensive depending on what industry you're in. I mean, I've seen upwards of $25 a click depending on what industry you're in. It can be, and it's all based on competition. So the more competition there is in your industry, the higher the cost per click. So it's a little expensive. It also can produce a lot of false positives. So I'll go back to crane rental company, right? What is a crane? It's a bird as well, isn't it? So, somebody who's the bird watching people are Googling and they're getting your crane site and they're clicking on it. That's wasting your money. So it can produce false positives. And the other problem is it needs to be actively managed all the time. Someone needs to be just always in there making sure those false positives don't keep happening and coming up. But here's the good part about it. It's guaranteed results. You can create a formula that says if I spend X amount of dollars in Google advertising, I will get X amount of traffic back. You can even take that a step further and say, and of that traffic I get, X amount of those people will fill out my call to action on my site or contact me. So you can actually figure out your cost to acquire a client or a lead. So as far as quantifying things, Google advertising is one of the most accurate ways you can do it. The other thing you can do is you can also do zip code specific targeting of your ads. You can say, I'm only interested in attracting people from this local zip code. And you can run targeted campaigns that are only shown to people in that zip code. So it's also pinpoint accuracy. Whereas search engine optimization is kind of a shotgun approach. South Jersey crane rental. I could be getting everybody in South Jersey, people who maybe are in Trenton, and they tend to think they're in South Jersey because they're below 195 maybe, and maybe I don't service that area. So search engine optimization may get you some of those calls that are erroneous and you go, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you out, it's not really our service area. Where pay-per-click marketing is laser focused down to the exact market that you need. So here's an example of pay-per-click in action. I Googled waste management services in San Diego. Third one that popped up, highlighted purple there, Ecovita Waste Management. It's a waste management consulting and dumpster rental in La Jolla. Well, they're in La Jolla, but they want the San Diego market. That's their goal. That's the larger audience. So the way for them to do that, pay-per-click marketing, guaranteed traffic to the site, guaranteed results. They can actually measure, if I spend $500 on pay-per-click advertising, I will attract this many clients, this many kids to my website, which will in turn become this many clients. And they can work that formula out. Now here's the last piece of the puzzle that I want to bring up, and this is really, really cool stuff. Haven't we all gone on the internet and searched, we've done some online shopping, you're looking for a widget online, and next thing you know, everywhere you go on the internet, you keep seeing ads for that same thing you just looked at online. We've all been there, right? You check the weather and you see, ads for something you were looking at on Amazon.com. You're like, what? How do they know what I want? It's like they got it in your head. That's actually called remarketing. That's when you tag a person based on something that they visited on your website and follow them around the internet and display your ads to them. Believe it or not, it's one of the cheapest and most cost-effective things you can do to get in front of a huge audience and stay in front of a huge audience. So the benefit of Google remarketing is it's the most inexpensive form of search advertising. It allows you to follow interested prospects for up to 30 days. It creates brand recognition because you're constantly following these people everywhere you go. They check the mail, they check the weather. You're right in their face. It also creates an illusion of size. Most people don't know this, but when you go on a news website, a national news website like CBS or one of those, you're seeing ads that are specifically geared towards you personally. Your neighbor, your friend who's sitting next to you isn't even going to see the same ads because their IP address probably looked at other different things lately, and they want to show you ads specific to your interests. And obviously getting people to return to your site after they've already been there is going to convert. So here's how it works. Here's a website called Beach It Cards. They sell beach cards, PVC beach cards. So I went to the website and cookied in my browser behind the scenes. And here I am on AccuWeather.com checking out the local temperatures. And what's popping up in my face? Beach It beach cards. So that I was able to follow it was able to follow me. And here I am on a how-to website. It's a how-to carpentry website. It tells you how to build different things around the house. And there it is on my mobile phone showing up as well. So you can actually follow people after they've been to your website. You can follow them on their desktop. You can follow them on their mobile phones. You can follow them on their tablets. There is one caveat. Your ads can be configured to follow mobile users, but you have to have a mobile-friendly website. Google's cracking down. If your site isn't mobile-friendly out of the gates, Google will say, we're sorry. We're not going to let you advertise to people with mobile devices. Because Google is worried about creating a bad user experience. If you have to scroll left and right and up and down all over your website to read something, Google's not interested in advertising on that site. No. So here's the fun stuff. This is a real client of ours, and it actually demonstrates what their costs were for remarketing. This is a 30-day period. They had 17,770 impressions. What that means is, after people had come to their site and been flagged by the remarketing tags, we were able to display our ads 17,770 times. That means each person probably was hit with it 100 times in that month at least. Of those 17,770 people we showed it to, 84 of those folks decided to come back to our website. They had been there before and they saw our ad and said, yeah, I'm interested enough to come back. And the cost? $100. We exposed our ad 17,770 times and attracted 84 repeat clients for a cost of $100 in a month. You can't beat that. I mean, that's about as cheap as you can get on the internet as far as paid advertising goes. Well, I'm going to cut it off there before I bore you to death, and we'll turn it over to Rebecca.
Okay, everybody, I'm your last speaker for the night. Woo! So I'm going to tell you a couple things about me. I love social media. It makes me very excited. When I get very excited, I talk really fast. I talk really fast anyway. So when I give speeches, what I like to do is usually have a bell. But what I have is a horn, because Kevin had this on his desk. So I need a volunteer. Anyone, raise your hand. Anyone, I swear. There you go, right here. Okay, what's your name? Chase. Anytime I start talking too fast, anybody falls asleep, right in their ears. All right, good. All right, so I do social media. I love doing social media, that's why I'm excited. I wish I could tell you everything I know about social media, but we would be here in our jammies, drinking some wine, crashing for the night, because there is so much to do. So what I'm giving you tonight is just a primer. This is just scratching the surface of social media. Okay, next slide. So there are over 200 social media platforms in the world right now. Not all of them are in the United States, but many users are in the United States that use them. These that you see on this slide are the core social media platforms. There are things like Bebo that you may not have heard that are huge in Europe. So we've got right here, we're going to start with the Instagram logo. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Instagram. Instagram is mostly used by teens and tweens and maybe into your 20s. Then underneath that we have Yelp. Yelp is a social media review site. I'm sure everyone here has probably read Yelp. It's kind of like TripAdvisor, but it's for businesses. So if you have a place where people walk in, you're going to probably have a Yelp page. If you don't know you have a Yelp page, you better go find out, because people are talking about you and you don't know it. Underneath that, we have LinkedIn, one of my favorite social media networks. LinkedIn is for networking. It's for people, everybody in this room should have a LinkedIn profile. If you hate social media and you're like, I don't want to do social media, LinkedIn is still a must-have for anybody who loves business and wants to network. It's online networking. Right above that, we have Google+. Google+, it's not that exciting unless you're 35 and hip and you're in San Francisco and you love technology. But remember what Bryan was saying about SEO? So here's why you need to have a Google+ social media page. If you don't, Google will rank you lower in organic search optimization. It's like they're throwing a party and they're forcing you to attend. It kind of stinks. They're kind of sucky like that. But, so you should have a Google Plus page specifically for that, unless of course you are catering to 35 and younger and technologically savvy people in probably the San Francisco area, which I don't think any of us here are. Right above that cool little ghost is YouTube. Everyone's familiar with YouTube. Most people use that in general. There's no really age range. However, it's really popular with younger kids. Next to that is the big P, and that's Pinterest. If you are a woman and you like crafts or jewelry or cooking, or just you're a woman, you're probably going to like Pinterest. Underneath that is Twitter. That is 40 and under, not so much teens and tweens, but 40 and under for people like news. I'm a huge fan of Twitter. I love news, I love anything that goes fast. I want it now, I want it before anybody else. I love Twitter. Did I skip Facebook? I think I did. I skipped Facebook. I'm on Facebook like 30 hours a day, so I'm like, everybody knows Facebook. Facebook used to be really young. And then it started aging a little bit, and everybody, well, not everybody, many of you may have read an article stating, all the kids are leaving Facebook, they're leaving Facebook. They're not. They're just being joined by their parents and their grandparents. So it's a staple, it's a must-have, it's a 101, be on Facebook. And then that cute little ghost with the tongue sticking out, that's Snapchat. Anybody here heard of Snapchat? Okay, cool, good. Sometimes when I talk to people, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So Snapchat is a platform where, for those who might not know, where you take a photo of something, you send it to someone else, and after 10 seconds of them opening it, it disappears. So marketers are really trying to get their hands on Snapchat, trying to figure out how to work it. Most marketers haven't really figured it out yet. I still am trying to figure it out. It's primarily used by teens and tweens. And it's not being used in good ways, let's put it that way right now. It's mostly being used for sexting. So there are apps out there, in case any of you guys have kids, there are tools that you can monitor your Snapchat. But Snapchat is trying to rebrand itself to become another Twitter, another Facebook, another sort of format like that. Okay, so what should I be on? Who are your clients? Who are you trying to speak to? What age are they and what gender are they? You need to determine who your audience is before you can talk to them. Okay, you may run a youth center and all of your clients, so to speak, or I say clients, I'm sorry, because I come from the brands and what's your brand, who's your clients, but who's your audience? Who is your audience? If you run a youth center, your audience are the teenagers or the young kids. However, their mom and dad or their parents or guardian have to take them to the youth center. So your audience is not only kids, but it's their parents and their guardians as well. So maybe you're on Instagram for the kids, but maybe you're also on Pinterest because the moms are the one dropping them off. So it's really, really imperative to determine who your audience is before you start talking to them. Who are you trying to speak to? Same thing. What age are they? What gender are they? Okay, if they're male, then maybe you want to do Google Plus because that's where they trend a little bit more male. If they're female, well then you're hitting Pinterest. So really quick question. What company purchased Instagram in 2012? Anyone know? What company purchased Instagram in 2012? It's just on that screen. Yes, congratulations. What's your name? Rachel, congratulations. You win Twizzlers! Yay! Awesome catch. I would have dropped that. What was that? Oh, Facebook. It was Facebook. Facebook paid $715 million. $715 million to acquire that in 2012. Wish I was Mark Zuckerberg. Okay. Know what interest do they have? Okay, what interest do they have? What are you trying to say and what content are you putting out? If, again, I'm going back to Pinterest because that's the easiest one. If they're very interested in crafting, you run, again, a community center is one of the easiest things. They run you run a dance, you run a fashion, whatever you're running, whatever they're interested in, connect with the audience where they're at. So knowing these platforms, what are you trying to say to them? Are you trying to say something a little bit longer form that you might take a blog, or can you reach them in 140 characters or less on Twitter? I always want to give you a couple examples of some crazy things that I do every day. One of our clients is OSB Jewelry. They're on Etsy. Obviously, what platform would we mostly be targeting? Perfect. We also do Google Plus for the SEO, and we also do Facebook and Twitter because it doesn't hurt to kind of spread it out. I believe in the 80-20 rule. Have anybody heard of the 80-20 rule? Okay, cool. You're gonna keep getting Twizzlers, man. So the 80-20 rule means 80% of all of your outgoing posts, tweets, anything on Facebook, they should be educational, instructional, informative. 20% should be sales or more pitchy or just more things that you don't really always want thrown at you. I actually even tweak that a little bit in my own personal use of my use for social media professionally for 90-10. Because I've noticed, I've been doing social media for a very long time, professionally and not professionally, aka not getting paid for it, for about 10 years almost. And I've noticed that when you try to sell something to someone, they don't really care, but when it's informational, they're like, wow, this is great. Now I say that, and I'm gonna contradict myself because Otis B, they love the sales pitches. I'm strategizing for 2 weeks with them, and I'm like, everything that's in my brain is backwards. So it's always good to test. So here's an example on this little cute apple thing here. That's purely sales pitch. That's buy this jewelry piece. You're a teacher. Buy it for your teacher. Buy it for yourself. On the right-hand side is not something they sell at all. It's a jewelry tree. It's a homemade, do-it-yourself jewelry tree. But it went crazy. We got likes, comments, everything, because it wasn't in your face, and they weren't really accustomed to that. So they are new clients. We kind of started introducing this, and organically, it went nuts. Another one is Dr. Wormuth. She's a skincare clinic in Swedesboro and Elmer. How do you make dermatology exciting? How do you get people to share? You want people to share and engage, like, retweet, comment. Those are the goals of social media. Cracked hands and liver spots, not that exciting, but it's how you write it. It's how you tell that story. The dry feet thing went crazy. So apparently there's a lot of dry feet in the area. But people want to know, how do you handle the dry feet? Because it's not something you go, hey Tom, how do you handle your dry feet? It's not a conversation that you want to have, but when you're at home, at your desk, on your tablet, wherever you're at, you might click through and say, wow, I do have dry feet. Let me see what's going on here. So again, it's informative. It might not be something you would traditionally think you'd want to go out and put out. That was one of our best posts over the past couple of weeks. So I know Terry mentioned this a little bit. A lot of you guys are probably, the whole team, one of you guys are probably low on money, don't have a big staff, whatever it is. So these are some tools that are mostly free, and they will totally help you save time. But before that, what percent of all internet users use some social media, regardless of what it is? What percentage? What percentage of all internet users use social media? 79? Who said 79? Close enough. 72%. Look, she's got a horn and she's got Twizzlers, man. I want to be in the audience. I want to toot horns and get free stuff. You're welcome. Okay. Oh, I just showed the answer to my next question. Okay. So Google Alerts, free. Okay, totally free. Just type in the words Google Alert, and it's going to come up on Google. So what you do is you put in a keyword. So what's your name? Susan. And where do you work? Or where do you volunteer for? Where are you representing?
Inspire Foundation.
Okay, awesome. So she's going to type in Inspire Foundation, and Google is going to do the work for you. Isn't that awesome? It's like having a little robot. I love it. So she types in that, and every morning, every afternoon, whenever she wants, that Google alert is going to send any mention across the web of that keyword. You can put in competition, you can put in keywords that you really want to pay attention to. Whatever it is, Google will control the internet and send that to you at your pre-designated time. The same thing with Twilerts, however you want to say it, I say Twilerts. It's free to a certain extent. You can only have a certain amount of keywords. What you do here is you type in a keyword, and then Twilerts will send you an email every morning or every afternoon, again, whenever you want it, and they will give you any mentions of that keyword in Twitter. So you don't have to be on Twitter all day, although it's fun. You don't have to be on Twitter all day because they're going to tell you that that came up. TweetDeck and Hootsuite, these are social media dashboards, okay? These are tools, but they're not like Google Plus and they're not like Twilight. TweetDeck and Hootsuite, I would be in a ball in tears, probably a raging alcoholic if I didn't have Hootsuite, okay? Because, oh my gosh. So I would love to go into more detail about how awesome sauce Hootsuite is, but we'd be here all night. So during the breakout session, if you want some information about Hootsuite, it is free to a certain extent. I'll absolutely talk to you more about it. But Hootsuite and TweetDeck are dashboards that help you post things for you. For example, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, I'm going out and I'm gonna have a drink and dinner with a friend I haven't seen since last December. I don't really necessarily want to be sitting at my computer posting at 8 o'clock at night. I'll be out with my friend. I haven't seen him for almost a year. It'll look like I'm posting. Because what I did is schedule to post on Hootsuite, to go out on Twitter, to go out on Facebook, to go out on Google+, to go out on LinkedIn, to go out almost anywhere I want. And I'm having a glass of wine with Jim. So that's why I love Hootsuite. You can be connected 24/7 or make it look like you are, and you're really not. There's also things like keywords. You can, again, do searches. It's amazing. There's so much. I could do a whole seminar on Hootsuite. I could do a whole seminar on shoes. It doesn't matter. So, Crowd Booster. It's not free, but if you really want to showcase the return of your investment, the analytics, this is awesome. It's $30 a month, so it's a little expensive, but look, you can get analytics from Facebook Insights, you can get analytics now from Pinterest, and now you can get analytics as of last week from Twitter. But what I like about this is if you're managing a bunch of things and it's not your one only job, Crowd Booster puts it all on one page, done. Again, I love, social media is crazy, there's so much going on, you gotta make it easy. So I want to talk about best practices, and the one thing that I think everybody who knows me talks, or knows that I say, I'm like best practices. I'm like, this is best practice, adhere to it, adhere to it. These are best practices 101, okay? This is just common knowledge of any social media manager, coordinator, specialist, social media ninja, what anybody calls themselves nowadays, it doesn't care. Content calendar. Content calendar is what you put out on social media in an archive. So if your boss or your board of directors or whoever it is says, what did you put out on August 23rd at 3 o'clock? I remember seeing something. Does anybody here have the time to scroll through their Facebook page a month ago? Okay, guess what? Give me 1 second. Click, click. I opened up my content calendar, went to August 23rd. Oh, this is exactly what I wrote. Yes, I used an image. Here's the link, and this is the copy. Right there. Content calendars are a must. They are a must. You can design them however you want. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. And I can show you some examples of that at some point too if you ever want. Drive traffic to your website. Much like Bryan talked about, you need to get the people to your website to get that SEO up. So you don't want to send people to third parties. You don't want to send people to other websites. You want them to come there. You would be amazed at how many people send traffic to other websites. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Because they're crazy. Don't link Twitter to Facebook. I'm going to say this a couple times. Do not link Twitter to Facebook. Don't link Twitter to Facebook. And never link Twitter to Facebook. Okay? I can't stress this enough. Why? Because circling back to the beginning of my conversation, Facebook users are not Twitter users, are not Pinterest users. There may be some crossover, but you're talking to two different people. I do social media for a living, and I'm probably one of the very few people in social media that has social media accounts for everything except for Facebook. Don't use it. Love Twitter, love LinkedIn, I do Foursquare, I'm kind of a dork, but if you post something on Facebook, on Twitter, and it links back to Facebook, I can't read it. Why? I don't have a Facebook account. Can't do it. And also the audience is different. So use videos or images. There have been studies, and recent studies, that said that the impact of videos and images creates more engagement by up to 70%. So if you have a video, if you have an image, even if it's just like a small, something that kind of goes along with the theme, it's a logo, whatever it is, their eyes are gonna be attracted to that. Images, images, images. Do not post without an image. Almost as important as don't linking Twitter to Facebook. Almost. All right, finishing up here. Keep it digestible. And what I mean by digestible is short and sweet. Twitter only gives you 140 characters. I actually read a study that I think I'm not sure if anybody downstairs heard me fall out of my chair. They said, most people who use Facebook only like 40 characters or less. Like, what? You can't, what are you putting there? Hey, click this link. So you don't have to be crazy about it. But one of the common things that gets my goat is when you see the see more button, the see more link on Facebook. That's just a social media nightmare. If you don't say it in 2 to 3 sentences, you've lost them. They're not clicking that see more link. They're not. So keep it digestible. Keep it 5th grade level reading or less. And that's not because people are stupid. It's because people are busy. And they want content, they want to consume it, and then they want to leave. So keep it digestible, keep it short, keep it to the point. One of my favorite things to do is, remember I was saying just a couple minutes ago about linking back to your website? One of my favorite things is when you're watching the Today Show, Good Morning America, and then they go to the break. Before the break, they had a guy come on and say, coming up after the break, a weight loss pill is going to make you lose 50 pounds while you sleep and make you look like Angelina Jolie. And all of a sudden you're like, I can't wait for this. Oh my God. That's what you need. That's what you want. You want that coming after the break because you want that to be, click this link to get that information. You need to make it exciting. You want to drive that hunger. There needs to be a hunger there. So keep it digestible, keep it short. Make it longer on your click-through. Know when to post. Most brands post during the day. Well, I don't know about you, but if I didn't do social media, I'd probably be working someplace like maybe as a bank teller. Bank tellers can't have their phones. School teachers can't use their phones during the day. Construction workers, I don't think they're using their phones, and if they are, that's kind of dangerous. But most people can't use their phones during the day. So know when your audience is online. Is that after 5 o'clock? Is it 9 o'clock at night? Are they on at 2 o'clock in the morning? You'll know your audience better than anyone else, so know when they're on. If they are kids, maybe they take lunch breaks. In the local schools usually take lunch breaks between 11 and 12. Post at 12 o'clock. Parents, stay-at-home moms, maybe they're posting, maybe you post at 3 o'clock. But if you're catering to working parents who are dropping their kids off at your place, post at noon for the kids, post at 8 o'clock at night when the kids are at bed for them. Optimize. Don't forget about the About Me page. Phone, address, who are you, what you do. Tell people who you are. Over 60% of all Facebook users, all Facebook users, they check your Facebook page before they check the .com. So they are going to a Facebook page before they go to their .com, which you've just lovingly spent all this time and all this money putting together. So you gotta have your Facebook page, you gotta have your Twitter account, you gotta have that all put together. And engage. It is called social media. It's not called one-way media, it's called social media. I always use this analogy. If you have a customer or a client or your audience calls you and you pick up the phone, would you say nothing to them? Because if you wouldn't, then you shouldn't be doing that on social media. Because having a Facebook page, having a Twitter account, having any page, and then having them engage on that page and you don't respond, you don't take 5 minutes out of the day to do that, they're picking up the phone calling you and you're saying nothing. Really quick, last one, Twizzlers are at stake. What country has the most active Facebook users? Not hearing it yet. Nope. Starts with a C, but is not China. Yes! It is Canada. Those Canucks, when they're not watching hockey and drinking beer, they are on Facebook talking about hockey and beer. My kind of people. I'm from Michigan, so I'm practically Canadian. All right, so choose wisely. Know who your audience is, know why they're at, where they're at, and then pick. You don't have to be on every single platform. I mean, it would be great, but who has time for that? And if you don't have time, I do social media for a living, hint, hint. But anyway, Yelp, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever you might want to be on, get on it and start working it, massage it, make it your own, and just know who you're talking to and where they're at. So I want to say thank you, because you're awesome. And I appreciate you putting up with me for probably, hopefully not too long, longer than I was supposed to go. But just a real quick reminder, we're going to have breakout sessions really quick. And in the back there are takeaways. I have a USB key that has about 16, 17 documents that have Facebook, that have spec sizes, so you know all the sizes for all social media platforms, best practices, why you choose Google, white papers, all kinds of stuff I've been collecting since I started doing social media. Really, really good stuff that will probably take. She just wanted to honk it once. I'm trying to wrap up. So get over there, grab a USB key, and if nothing else, if you don't like my documents, you can erase them, and then you've got a free USB key. So Terry's over there, Kevin's over there. If you want to talk about PR, video, you want to talk to Bryan about web, or I'm going to stand right here and keep yapping if anybody wants to talk to me. So thanks, guys.
So everyone, now is the time for you to get some one-on-one with a particular interest that you may have with any of our experts here tonight. Take a few minutes, grab some more food, and sit down with these folks and talk about what you might want to accomplish over the next couple of months. For those of you who have visited our Facebook page, the Commission, this is the year of social media for the Commission. We have created a Facebook page, we have Twitter feed, and we have a YouTube channel where all of our workshops are now online. Everything's being recorded on video. I can say, for instance, tonight I tweeted Frank tomorrow giving his presentation, and I had 2 likes from people I have no idea where they came from. So that was something that was great, and it connects the Commission to new individuals that we would not reach otherwise. So I wanted to thank you for being here tonight. Let's hang out a little bit and get some more information. And then if you have any questions for me, feel free to grab me while I'm here. All right, thanks a lot.